Amir, we've had some very, very interesting Middle East developments here over the summer, and I just played a clip there of President Trump, and of course he visited with Mahmoud Abbas. This is several weeks ago now, and I think he was a little bit fooled by Abbas. I think you would agree with me that there is now the hope for peace. As a matter of fact, sort of the chief strategist is President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Your thoughts on all this?
I think that President Trump was fooled by Abbas when Abbas came to visit him in Washington. And I think that when President Trump visited Israel and, of course, Bethlehem, that's when President Trump made it very clear to Abbas in a very, very non-political way. He literally banged with his fist on the table and said to him, "You fooled me to believe that you really want peace when at the same time you're paying salaries to families of suicide bombers and encouraging them to continue. So you need to choose who you're standing with." And he was very angry. And then he told him, "You guys are holding Israel as a hostage when it comes to normalization with the Arab world. You're basically saying as long as you don't have peace with the Palestinians, you'll never enjoy normalization with the rest of the Arab world." Well, I'm saying, well, obviously it never worked, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to start normalizing relationship with the Arab world with the hope that that will now ignite the peace process. And that pulled the rug from underneath the feet of the Palestinians, who are now saying, they understand this is not going to be good because we lost our biggest weapon right now. So I think, yes, he was fooled in Washington, and then when he was here, he already made it very clear. And then the Secretary of State, Tillerson, announced that the Palestinians decided to stop paying those stipends to the families of the terrorists. And guess what happened? Less than 24 hours later, the Palestinian says, no, we never agreed to that. So what Jared Kushner is doing right now is finding out, guys, you're telling us one thing, but you're telling the world another thing. And where are you standing right now? And that's where we stand right now at this point. But there's another thing that I think most people don't know, and I was leaked the few points that the Americans proposed to both parties in order to reignite the peace process. And I'm talking about the preliminary paper. And basically, in the preliminary paper, the two most important things are being pushed aside to later negotiation. And it's the borders in Jerusalem.
Yes.
And so, with all the respect, we can, and that's exactly what happened, by the way, in the Oslo Accord. We pushed all of those things to the end. We started talking peace. But when those big things came to the table, it exploded. I don't think that what Trump is doing now is different than what President Bush the father, Bush the son, Clinton, and even Obama did. They all tried to bring peace to the Middle East. The only difference is that Trump understands the Israeli position much better than any other president before because he wasn't bought by the Qatari money, he's not blinded by the Iranian empty promises, and he doesn't have the built-in anti-Israel sense that some of the predecessors had. And so he's way more leaning towards us right now, and that is probably why things are different right now. And it projects to the whole Arab world right now. You can see the Saudis saying things and doing things that you and I would never even dream that we'd see in our lifetime.
Well, here's another thing, though, Amir. I'm talking to Amir Sarfati for the hour, and learn a lot more at beholdisrael.org. Here's the thing that I picked up on, and this was back in late June, but this was called the ultimate peace deal. That is a quote, that this would be the ultimate peace deal. Now, Amir, this is just a few miles in the Middle East. This is a small territory, a small number of acres in the Middle East. This is not like a deal that's going to affect all of Europe. I mean, it's a small area, but it's called the ultimate deal.
I tell you why it's called the ultimate deal. The ultimate deal for President Trump is that he's going to see peace not just between the Israelis and Palestinians, but between the Arab world and the Palestinians. This is why he calls it the ultimate deal. He's not looking at the little thing in the dot in the Middle East that, you can't really trust, which is the Palestinian Authority. He knows that these are untrustworthy people. He understands they'll tell me one thing and do another thing, So he is now engaging the big players like the Saudis and the UEA and all of those to push on the Palestinians to make up their mind and to take a clear, firm stand. Do you ask me if it's going to work?
Yeah.
Of course not. I mean, the minute you decide that Jerusalem is not going to be discussed at this point, the ultimate deal might look ultimate, but it will be empty from substance because, let's face it, biblical view of this whole conflict will detect immediately that Jerusalem is the problem, that they're going to fight over Jerusalem, that the war will be in Jerusalem, and when Christ comes back, he will put an end to it in Jerusalem. So I just believe that Jerusalem is the center of the conflict, and pushing it aside, it might look great, it might look peaceful for a season. It will only make the other side more angry. Think about it. Who is Donald Trump is betting on? Who is he taking as partners in this whole thing? He's not talking to the Russians. He's not talking to the Turks. And the Turks, by the way, have always been a channel of, so to speak, mediation between Israelis and Palestinians. So he's not talking to the Turks. He's not talking to the Russians. He's definitely not going to talk with the Iranians. He's talking to the Saudis right now. I mean, and look what happened in Saudi Arabia right now. In Saudi Arabia, the biggest supporter of Donald Trump has just been promoted to be the crown prince, to be the next in command. He's 31 years old, the son of the leader, and he is now had been promoted to be the second, in fact, the most powerful person right now, because the king, the king is old and the king is just there, but the one next to him is calling the shots. And this is now a 31 years old guy that is an admirer of Donald Trump. He is the leader of the Sunni effort against Iran. And if he takes to speak to Israelis and to have economic ties with Israelis, we'll do that. And Donald Trump looks at everything from the eyes of the businessman. And a deal or an ultimate deal for him is not the little piece and bites between Israelis and Palestinians. He wants to see something much greater. And for him, a Saudi and the rest of the Sunni Arab world, because the Egyptians are already having peace with Israel, and the Jordanians have peace with Israel. He wants to create a situation where the Saudis, the Egyptians, and the Jordanians together are all with Israel. This is a regional peace.
Yes.
This is something beyond the local Palestinian-Israeli issue. That's the ultimate
That's the ultimate deal. And that is an excellent clarification, because I think some are looking at the ultimate deal as something that's confined within Israel and the Palestinians, for instance. And it's a much broader picture.